So, chapter 4 test, which is tomorrow. I'm going to go question by question. I am not going to do an example for every single question, but I will do an example for each type of question, all right? Because some of these questions have like 2 or 3 questions, but they're the same kind of problem. All right, the first 2, it says classify the triangles by the angles and by the sides. Remember that? So if it says classify the triangle by the angles, what kind of triangles do we have that are named by the angles? Give me a triangle it's got a name for it by the angles. Isosceles? Isosceles is by the sides. Equiangular, okay, that's a good one. Yep. Let me write this down first. Equiangular, okay. You could have a right triangle. You could have an acute triangle. That's when all 3 angles are acute. A right triangle is when you have one right angle. Equiangular means what? All 3 angles are the same. They're equal to each other. Give me another one. Obtuse, right. So you got, can't think of any others. That's about it. Equiangular. E-Q-U-I, equi, and then angular. A-N-G-U-L-A-R. All right, so you got to look at your triangle. I'm trying to think of the quiz. What did we have on the quiz? Didn't we have like a right triangle? Actually, let's do this. This is by the angles. What are some names of triangles that we can name by the sides of the triangles? Somebody said it earlier, but it wasn't correct. Isosceles, okay. Isosceles. What does that mean? Yeah, 2 or more. Good, okay. At least 2 of the sides are equal to each other. So you could call it isosceles, okay. If 2 sides, even if 3 sides are equal, you could still call it isosceles. But we have a better word for if all 3 sides are equal. It's kind of like one of these. If all 3 sides are equal, equilateral, right? So equa, E-Q-U-I, and then lateral. Lateral means sides. What if none of the sides are equal to each other? Scalene. And I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah, either you got none of them equal, you got 2 of them equal, or you got all 3 equal. All right, so that would be your names for the sides. So what about this? I think we had something like this on a quiz, didn't we? I recall this on a quiz. So name it by the angle. What kind of triangle is this? Named by the angle. It's a right triangle. It's a right triangle. Now, what does this say about the 3 sides? I got 1 tick mark, 2, and 3. What does that mean about the 3 sides? None of them are equal. So go to the sides. Scalene, right? So it would be a right triangle, and it would be a what? Scalene triangle. What if you had that? What would that triangle be? It'd still be a right triangle because of the angles, but it would be an isosceles triangle because 2 of the sides are equal to each other. Everybody with me on that? Okay, enough of that. That's 1 and 2. The next one you're going to see, the next one you see is going to look just like a quiz. Almost all of these problems, at least up to section 4 or 5, looks like the quiz. Some of the numbers are a little different, like this one right here. Remember this one on the quiz? Remember what angle we used on the quiz? I think it was 65, wasn't it? Okay. I'll tell you right now, the one on the test, it's not going to be 65. But the problem's almost identical, except the numbers are just different. No, it'd be easier, actually, to tell you the truth, I think. All right? So these 2 are 65. What do they ask you? They ask you to find this angle up here, and they also ask you to find this angle over here. All right? So this will be number 3 and 4 on the test. Okay? So how do I find that angle up top? Okay, so add them together. So what's 65 and 65? How about 130? Look, you can't have two angles of a triangle adding up to 180 because what's the other one going to be? You can't have a 0 degree angle, right? So these two cannot add up to 180, all right, because you got three angles here, and all three angles add up to 180. But how do I find this angle? Is that 130? I had people do that. They add these up and say, oh, that's 130.
180 minus 65.
No. Minus 130, these two. It's 180 minus 65 minus 65 again, right? Which is 180 minus 130. And that gives you what? 50. So this angle is 50 degrees. Put the degree symbol if they ask for an angle, okay? Don't just put a 50. Put the degree symbol. All right, what about this one? This is the second thing. This is number 4. Okay, you could do it that way. Now watch. There could be a problem with that, though. Because what if you messed up and you did your math wrong and you said this was, I don't know, 60 or 40 or something? Then, if you add those up, you could get that wrong. But this is correct. So what is 50 and 65? Got to work on your math a little bit. 65 and 50 add up to be what? 115. Okay? So that's one way to do it. But, are you listening? What if you messed up on the first problem and got that wrong? Then you're going to get this wrong too. That's it. But this is another way to do it. Do you see how it forms that straight line right there? So you know the angle's 180. If this is 65, how do I find that? Just, that's it. Take 65 away from 180. And you still get what? 115. So you get it either way. But the thing is, you got to make sure you get this one right if you're going to add those two together to get that third angle. All right? So I would look at it both ways just to make sure you get the same number. All right? Because, I mean, everybody, myself included, can make arithmetic errors, right, and not get this right. Okay, enough of that. Now we're going to do the congruent triangle stuff. The next set of problems is 5, 6, and 7. I'm only going to do one, all right, of these, but there's 3 of them on the test, 5, 6, and 7. They look identical to the ones on the quiz, I'll tell you right now, all right? So I'm going to do a different one. If you wanted to, you could go back to the first geometry class. They're in red. You guys are in green, right? On YouTube. All right, so they're the red one. I actually do a different problem for them. All right, so if you wanted to go back and look at their problem, because that'd be good, because then you'll see 2 of them, right? 2 out of the 3. So here, I'm going to do a different one than I did in the first class. Let's go to about right here. This may not be perfect, but it looks pretty close. Yeah, it's not bad. And let's just call this A, B, C, D. I use different letters on the test, but we'll do this right now. And they tell us this and this are equal, and this one and this are equal. Do you remember what they asked on this question? I didn't even tell you what they asked for. They asked you 2 things. What's the first thing they asked for? For a congruence statement. Good. So they ask for a congruent statement, and then they ask for a reason, okay? Or they say name the postulate. Oops, spell it right. Name the postulate or theorem. So this is like a double question in one, 2 questions in one, and you got to get them both right to get it right. Josiah, what was your question? Sure? Okay, so first thing, I'm actually going to do, to me, I think it's easier to name the reason first and then go ahead and do the congruent statement. That's just me, but that's what I'm going to do. All right? Everybody with me? So let's do the second one first. Let's name the postulate. Well, what do they give you? This is what they give you. They give you a side and a side. Now, just by looking at the picture, is there anything else we can say about these 2 triangles? That middle is congruent. BD equals BD. So I could do that, couldn't I? I don't have to guess it. I know. It's shared. Both of these triangles share that BD. So I can mark that right away. Call it the reflexive property. You don't really have to know that, but that's what we call it. Now, tell me why these triangles are congruent to each other. That's it. You got a side, you got another side, and you got a third side. You see that? So that's one set of sides. Here's your second set of sides, and this is your third set of sides. So side, side, side. So that's my reason. Side, side, side. Now I've got to write the congruent statement. So we start off writing triangle. Write that first. Don't forget to put the triangle symbol. So let's take this triangle here on the left. What are you going to name that? Just AB? ABC? ABC is not this triangle. Look, this triangle right here. C is not a part of that triangle. ABD, okay? You could call it ABD, you could call it BAD, you could call it DAB. It doesn't matter, does it? All right? You said ABD, let's call it ABD. So ABD. Now, watch very carefully. If I go A, which one over here matches up with the A? The C, right? See how it's across from the 3 tick mark one? So that would be C. Which one matches up with the B over here? This B and this B right here. All right, so we're going to put B. Because look at it. This one right here is opposite the 2 tick marks. This one's opposite the 2 tick marks, correct? So they would go together. So the B's would go together. Obviously, you only have one left. You got C, you got B, and you got what? D. So if I go A, B, D, this one's going to go what? C, B, D. Because if I took it and I folded it, right, it looks like you could kind of fold it, doesn't it? Boom, just like that. Then the A and the C match up, the B and the B, and the D and the D match up. All right. Again, if you want to look, you don't have to watch the whole entire video from the other class, but if you just want to scoop through it and find number 5, okay, we do number 5 in the other class if you want to look at that. All right, let's keep moving. This is that one where you had to state the additional information. Everybody flipped out over this one. But it's not that hard if you know what we're looking for. Again, I think I did number 8. So this is 8, 9, and 10 on the test. I did number 8 in the other class. So you can watch the video and look at number 8 if you want to. So I am going to do a different one. So I'm going to do one that looks like number 9. Is that right? Like that? That's pretty close. Let me just clean that up a little bit right there. All right, that's pretty good. Well, it's not that great. It's slant. That's good enough. Good enough. And what do they tell you? They tell you that this side is equal to this side. And that's all they tell you. We're going to call this A, B, C, D again. I use different letters on the test, but we'll use A, B, C, and D for this. Now, what does the question say? It says, state what additional information is required to know the triangles are congruent for the reason given. So here's the reason that they give you. They tell you that you want to figure out why these are congruent because of side, side, side. Well, look, what do they give you right off the bat? They give you one set of sides, don't they? Is there anything else, just by looking at the picture, that you could say about this? The BD, right. The BD is shared by both of them, isn't it? So that's not additional information, is it? That's information that's already on the picture. You got that? It's already there. So I could put a 1 tick mark there. Now, here's the question. What else would we need to know? What additional information, right? That's how they ask it. Would we need to know to say these triangles are congruent because of side, side, side? Yeah, that's right. AD and what? BC or CB. Doesn't matter what order you go. Okay? So if I knew that this was equal to that, then guess what? They're going to be congruent because of what reason? Side, side, side. So what's my answer? What was the additional information that I had to say? Yep. So I'm going to say that AD is congruent to, if I go AD, we'll go CB. It doesn't matter what order in this case. You could call it DA, you could call it BC, it doesn't matter. But that right there is your answer. That's your additional information. Was this one right here additional information in between? No, because it's in the picture. You can see that they're equal on both triangles. But that you didn't know. But if they were, that's the key phrase, if they were equal to each other, then these triangles would be congruent because of side, side, side. All right, let's keep going. We're only halfway through and I only got 10 more minutes. All right, so that's that. Now, I give you another one. Again, I'll do a different one than we did in the other class, just to mix it up a little bit. And I did tell the other group to watch this video as well. I don't know if they will. I don't know if you'll watch theirs. But I would if I was a student. That's what I would do. Good. All right, this time they give you right triangles. It's very similar to that numbers 5, 6, and 7. All right, except you have different reasons. All right, they give you this and they give you this. And again, we'll call it A, B, C. We'll call that D. The nice thing about this is I actually give you reasons to choose from. All right, so you can pick from this list. I give you this list. That's nice of me, isn't it? You're welcome. I didn't hear any thank yous. There you go. Yeah, when I got to beg for it, it's not that great, but that's okay. So I give you this. Okay, are these two triangles congruent because of leg, leg, hypotenuse angle, leg angle, or hypotenuse leg? And you also have to do the congruent statement as well. All right, so this is that thing where you do the congruent statement and then you give the reason. I like to do the reason first and then do the congruent statement second. All right, so what do they give you? They give you right angles and they give you a side. But again, side angle side is not on our list. All right, we can't say side angle side. If you put side angle side, it's going to be wrong. Because you know that DC equals DC, don't you? Right? We've done that a couple times already today. Right? So look, what is AD? Is it a hypotenuse? Is it an angle? Is it a leg? What is it? It's a leg. What about this DC? What is that? That's a leg. All right? They don't say anything about the hypotenuse, do they? All right? So I can't use any of the ones that talk about the hypotenuse. Look at this. Do I know anything about the angles except for that being a right angle? No, I don't. I don't know anything about those angles. So really, what's my only other choice? Leg, leg. That's a leg. That's a leg. So my reason is leg, leg. Again, you can only use these when you have what kind of a triangle? A right triangle. Okay? Now, let's do the congruence statement. What do you want to call this one right here? Triangle what? ADC. You got to have 3. Triangle, 3 points. You can't just say AD. It's ADC. All right, so A. Do you have to call it ADC? No. You can use any of those 3 letters, but we just decided to call it ADC. Now, if you call this one ADC, what are you going to have to call this one? BDC. That's right. If I go ADC, then I got to go BDC. And there you go. That's your answer. We good? All right. Now, let's do that mid-segment stuff. We got about 6 minutes. Like I said, the first 2, I'm not even going to draw a picture. So the mid-segment is 14 to 16. 14, 15, and 16. Now watch. 14 and 15 are the real easy ones. That's when if I give you a mid-segment, let's say that's 4, and this is the third side, what would the third side be? It would be 8, okay? Everybody with me? All right, so if that's a mid-segment, well, it's 4 times 2, right? 4 times 2. Remember, the third side is double the mid-segment. Okay, what if I give you The third side was 14. Then what's the mid-segment?
It would be 7.
It's 7, right? The mid-segment is shorter than this. It's not 28. Okay, I gave you the longer one, right, which is 14. So what's the shorter one? It's 7. All right, so that's 14 and 15. It's that easy. You just look at it, you either double it or you take half of it. All right?
How you know?
Because the shorter one is half and the longer one is double. All right? Agreed? Number 16 is like the one we just finished doing on the worksheet. Okay? Where you put X's in there. Remember that one? Remember we did the worksheet? So I'm not going to even do an example because we did it like, I don't know, 20 minutes ago or something like that. I changed the numbers. I changed the 4 and the 8. I scribbled it out. And I said, what if this was 14? What would this be? It'd be 7. Okay? All right. Yes. This is half of this, correct. Or this is twice that. All right? Now, number 16 is that one where, I'm just making this up. Okay, so you can write these numbers down, I guess, if you want. But remember this? We had like 3x plus 2 is equal to twice, x minus 3. Remember that? Okay, that's number 16. All right? We already did that. I'm not going to do it again because of time. Let me do this. I told the other class, I said, watch the second class because I'm sure we'll get to this next problem. And here I'm short on time already. We already went over it. I'm not going to go over that one anymore because we spent a lot of time. Well, not a lot, but we spent some time on it before we started class today. Well, before we started recording, I should say. All right. Okay, here's what they give you. Let's put some numbers in here. Might have to go through this kind of quick just because I just want to get this done. This is 17 to 20. So these are the last 4. 17, 18, 19, 20. That's 4. Right? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to find 2 things. I'm going to ask you to find the slope, and I'm going to ask you to find the length. All right? So I'm going to ask you to find the slope of AB and the slope of DE. I'm going to ask you to find the length of AB and the length of DE. Now, let's watch. I only got a few minutes, so let's listen. If I can find the slope of one of them, what's the slope of the other one going to be? Huh? The same. That's what I'm looking for. They're going to be the same. They have the same slope. Remember, because they're parallel to each other. So which one can I find the slope of? AB. So let's find the slope of AB. So slope equals, okay, subtract the y's. It's not y equals mx plus b. It's not what we're doing. We're not finding the equation of the line. We're only finding the slope. So I subtract the y's from each other. 5 minus negative 1. Subtract the x's from each other. 6 minus negative 4. What's that give us? 6 over 10. That reduces to 3 over 5. So the slope of this is 3 over 5. Without doing any math whatsoever, what's the slope of DE?
3 over 5.
It's 3 over 5 because they are exactly the same. All right, so once you find one, you can always find the other one because they're the same. You got it? All right, so that's the answer for these 2. What about the length? Okay, length is the same as the distance, right? What is distance? Distance formula, right? So let's do this. Again, I'm running out of time, so just watch. So I want to find the distance of AB and the distance of DE. If I can find AB, all I do is take half of it to find DE. Let's find AB. How do you find the distance? Subtract the x's. Negative 4 minus 6. Subtract the y's. Negative 1 minus 5. That's negative 10. What's negative 10 squared? It's 100. This is negative 6. Negative 6 squared is 36. It's under a square root. So it's 136, but it's under a square root. You could keep it like that. That actually does simplify, but I don't care that you simplify it. Just keep it like that. So that's the distance of AB. How do I find the distance of DE? Very, very easily. Well, it's not the same. They're not the same length. This is half of this. That's right. So how do I show that? I just write the square root of 136, what? Over 2. And that's an acceptable way, for me anyway, in this class, to write the answer. So that would be the length of AB. This would be the length of DE. There you go. That's the whole entire test. And so you got to study. You got to prepare for it. Okay? Use the old quiz to use, to review. All right, please be ready for it. Okay? Don't let this be the last time you think about this today. All right? Take some time tonight. Go over it. Watch the videos. Nobody's listening to me. So we'll see you tomorrow.